What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with RK Outpost, and today I wanted to go over what I think is one of the biggest retcons in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, and that is about Snoke, and about Snoke's origins, where he came from, and the fact that now he was a clone made by Emperor Palpatine. And why this just goes to show that they really had no overall overarching plan with this trilogy. Despite what the lip service we're getting from people like JJ Abrams, who said that it was a plan, and oh yeah, we were always going to bring Palpatine back, and oh yeah, Snoke was always going to die, things like that. It just rings so hollow when you look at some simple things like, what Andy Serkis has said about his character, what JJ Abrams has said about the character of Snoke. So let's get into this right here. Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker explains Snoke's origins, finally provides answers regarding Snoke's backstory, clearing up key parts of the villain's origin. And this post does contain spoilers, and so does this video for Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker finally explains Supreme Leader Snoke's origin. Introduced in The Force Awakens, Snoke is one of the most mysterious elements of the sequel trilogy fans were eager to learn more about. There's no shortage of theories about him and his backstory. And famously told your Snoke theory sucks and things like that as fans. That's nice. With people speculating he was Darth Plagueis, Gallius Rax after the Aftermath novels, or something else. In the movies, audiences learned precious little about him before he was sliced in half during The Last Jedi's epic throne room scene. Definition of epic, I suppose, needs to be looked up there. But anyway, there's some people that love that throne room scene. I will say that. That creative choice, which proved to be extremely controversial, seemed to render Snoke unimportant. He was merely a red herring and a stepping stone to Kylo Ren's ascension as Supreme Leader, but as it turns out, Snoke was a pawn in a much larger picture. The reemergence of one Emperor Palpatine provides audiences with the answers they've been waiting for since 2015. And yes, Snoke was created by Palpatine. And it's very interesting because, a year ago, we had articles like this on Inverse. Snoke's backstory finally explained by Last Jedi book and Serkis. So let's just take a look at this. A year and a half ago, we thought, we know a little more about his backstory after he got killed off in Last Jedi. In this interview published on Tuesday, this was written March 7th, 2018, by the way. Andy Serkis said some things about Snoke. Serkis said that he's a couple hundred years old with a litany of egregious injuries from previous battles that have left him permanently scarred, made worse by a sort of decay. He wasn't always just a menacing leader wielding power from a blood-red throne room. He used to be a fighter before someone caved in his skull. So, and let's see right here. I've always approached him as someone who's obviously in a position of supreme power, but actually there's a level of vulnerability about this character. This is all coming from Andy Serkis, who played Snoke. He may be one of the most powerful Force users we've ever seen, but Snoke's many injuries probably make him physically vulnerable. The way his face is caved in, he has those deep scarifications, his skull's almost been crushed. And Serkis goes more and more about the injuries he got from previous battles. However, as I'll pull up on the screen now, this is a screenshot from Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. You can see that Snoke is being grown into that. So there's two Snokes in here that Palpatine is growing for some reason, in addition to the other one that Palpatine said he controlled. And this one has scars already. His face is already misshapen. He's grown that way. So all this stuff that Andy Serkis was saying was not right. Is it because he's just wrong about the character, or is it because they decided to change directions? I think it's reasonable to assume that they decided to change directions. They had to, because Ryan killed him off. And for some reason, they needed to explain away Palpatine's presence. So let's get back into this. Snoke was created by Palpatine. When Palpatine's surprise return was confirmed in the first The Rise of Skywalker teaser trailer, some wondered if it was possible for the Emperor was connected to Snoke in some way. After all, the First Order rose from the ashes of the old Empire, so it wouldn't have been surprising if Palpatine was pulling the strings all along. And that's precisely what happened. In an early release scene, one that was partially released, Palpatine tells Kylo Ren that he created Snoke and was behind the First Order. Through Snoke and Darth Vader's spirit, the Emperor was able to corrupt Ben Solo and turn him into Kylo Ren. And here's also a confusing thing. Darth Vader's spirit? What does that mean? What does it mean, Darth Vader's spirit? Darth Vader became Anakin Skywalker. Like, he was redeemed. Even though this movie does everything it can to forget about that, to forget about the fact that Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one, and that he sacrificed and redeemed himself to kill Palpatine, which is rendered moot by this movie. Darth Vader's spirit, like, my interpretation of that was that he was just using Darth Vader's voice to try to influence him, not Darth Vader's spirit. That would be a huge freaking retcon to me. I haven't even thought about that. The Emperor was able to corrupt Ben Solo and turn him into Kylo Ren. What this revelation does is make Palpatine's comeback a little less sudden with the context of the narrative. Throughout the sequel trilogy, he's been there in Exegol plotting his latest course of revenge so the Sith can rule the galaxy. How Palpatine apparently survived his death isn't really addressed. That's true. We've talked about that before. But at the very least, the question of Snoke's ascension can be put to rest. And here, Palpatine has multiple Snoke clones, like we just showed. Like I just showed in the screenshot from the Rise of Skywalker. Palpatine has multiple clones. Who was the source? It reveals Supreme Leader Snoke from the previous movies, who trained Kylo Ren, was not the only Snoke made. As Kylo Ren walks to the Sith temple on Exegol, a shot shows multiple deceased Snoke bodies, suggesting the Emperor was conducting cloning or another type of genetic experiment to build the perfect puppet. How many Snokes Palpatine went through to carry out his plan remains unknown, but it's nevertheless interesting there was more than one. It obviously raises the question, what went wrong with the ones that died, which sounds like the perfect material for a novel or comic to explore down the line. Really? You really think, well, I guess a comic, I suppose you could do like one story. Why does anyone want to know any more about Snoke? Andy Serkis was saying all these things about how he thought maybe it could be explored in a prequel or like a standalone movie or things like that. That's the things that Andy Serkis was saying. Now, we know he's just a clone for Palpatine. He did not live hundreds of years like Andy Serkis was told by the story writers, by JJ Abrams when he was created. In the Force Awakens novelization, it was told that Snoke saw the rise and fall of the Empire. That's clearly not true either. And if they do try to say it's true, that just requires even more retconning and even more of a story that doesn't make any sense. But that's what the Lucasfilm story group is great at trying to explain, right? They come out, we see things, they come and they give us these BS answers that don't make any sense, and I'm sure that that is what they will do with Snoke and how this was all part of the plan. Of course, this is all part of the plan, guys. Just a distraction. Andy Serkis doesn't know what he's talking about. That's just the character that he was, made to portray. I'm sure that's what they'll come out and say. This wasn't some kind of like, ooh, we're just trying to distract you from the truth. That's not what this is to me. It's very clear we saw Ian McDiarmid was really surprised when JJ Abrams reached out to him to reprise his role in episode 9, even though they want to say that, it was always, Michelle Rejwan and Kathleen Kennedy out there saying, well, it was always part of the plan. We always thought it would make sense to bring Palpatine back in 9. But of course, it's a surprise, a complete shock, just, a couple months before Star Wars Celebration, as the movie starts filming, that they reach out to Ian McDiarmid and say, hey, we're thinking about bringing Palpatine back. Would you be interested? So I think all those things, you can connect the dots and say that a lot of this stuff was just reactionary from JJ Abrams, from Lucasfilm, trying to explain away all the stuff that happened in The Last Jedi. But that's just my take on it. What's your take on it? All this stuff with Snoke, does this give you any closure? This is far departure from the character that we thought he was in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. That Andy Serkis, the person who plays him, clearly thinks that Snoke was. Is this just to explain away the plot holes in Last Jedi, or was this always part of the plan? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching, everyone. And a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.